So Paige and Hailey Sizzle and Hannah Fizzles. Hello everybody and welcome to our channel. I'm Mark.
And I'm Rob.
So hey, if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do so at the notification bell when you do so you get notified of our next video and make Rob happy. And guess what, Rob? Caitlin Clark's crossover is tonight. We're just going to do it for like 1 hour and then no live show after that because I'm going to stream the 7 o'clock women's game. So that's going to be from 6 to 7 Eastern, and it's also on Thursday from 5:30 to 6:30 Eastern. And that's like a Caitlin Clark's crossover is like a sports reporters forum where we have guest podcasters and we talk about Caitlin Clark and all good stuff related to that. So, Robert, we didn't do any videos on Sunday, so we're going to go over some games also on Friday and Saturday. And guess what? Paige is back, Rob. The assertive Paige is back. So let's review Paige Bueckers because I think this is a very interesting story that she was more assertive as a freshman than she is as a senior, which seems rather odd to me. Usually get more assertive each year. And, you know, we don't know if she has any lingering effects mentally or physically with her ACL and her knee injuries. But we do know that she had a very good year, but it was kind of an underrated year because people were saying she should be second team All-American. She was never in the hunt for the player of the year after the first couple of weeks. And, you know, but she was probably, you know, one of the at least tied for second best player in the country. But you wouldn't know it, Rob, the way people were talking about her.
Yeah, it's like almost like who is Paige Bueckers? Like what is she doing? And yes, people just kind of forgot about her.
And I actually think she's a better player than JuJu Watkins when she's assertive. Unfortunately, you don't get that all the time. And in the beginning of the year, she was coming up small in big games. At the end of the year, she was coming up bigger in big games.
Well,
and let's go
Mark, now I see why Gino kind of gets after her a little, and he did that, and she came out and played really well. But no, I mean, I used to be upset when he kind of got on her case, but now I see why. He's going, look, you're the freaking best player out there. What are you doing? Why are you playing this way? So I mean, she seems like she has to be pushed in order to get to do better.
And why, I'm not sure, Rob, because like I said, she was assertive when she was a freshman. And he said that between quarters. He says, Paige is open and she doesn't shoot. The people are just saying, let her, go ahead and shoot, And I don't know why. I don't know why either, but she shot in the fourth quarter. The bucket was very big for her too. So let's just go. I don't look too much into games that where the team is really weak. So I'm not going to look at round of 64, but the round of 32, they played the 10th seed. But Paige started being more assertive. She took 21 shots. She was 14 for 21. She had 34 points. And she also had 4 steals, 4 assists, and 0 turnovers. Her normal, efficient game, Rob. So that was, okay, that's still not a strong team. So that doesn't really impress the heck out of most people. But, Rob, the other day, she was another level for her anyways. I don't know why we don't get more of this from her. But she was phenomenal in the fourth quarter. Yep. She had scored 11 points in the first quarter. She didn't score any in the second. Started heating up again in the third. In the fourth quarter, Rob, she just took over.
Yeah, she went off on it. Yeah, it was like like where have you been all year type thing.
Right. Well, she was 16 for 27. And I think she made like 5 or 6 shots in a row in the middle of the fourth quarter. And then she was 6 for 8 from threes, 2 for 3 from the free throw line, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 steals, 2 blocks, and 3 turnovers. So she didn't have a good assist to turnover ratio for her, especially. But it didn't matter. She was on fire, and she was the reason they won, and that's the reason they pulled away because they were actually losing at halftime, Rob.
Right, yeah. I think Gino gave them that halftime speech that I used to give to my players sometimes when they weren't playing well. I remember parents asking me, wow, what did you say to them at halftime? I'm like, I just told them to play a little harder.
Yeah, and Sarah Strong was off that game, Rob. That was one of the reasons they were losing. She was 1 for 7 for threes and 4 for 13. Her all-around game was fine. 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and a block. But she wasn't playing great shooting-wise. And same thing with AZ Fudd. 4 for 13, 1 for 5 from threes, only 10 points. But she did have 5 assists. Give her that, and 3 steals. I don't want to take anything, just look at the shooting percentage. Sometimes you're getting your shots off, but that made it difficult for them to be winning, Rob, because 2 of the 3 stars were shooting poorly.
Well, they were and also they were playing poor defense too. So that was Oklahoma was getting layups, and that, like I said, I could see Gino's face, and I go, I feel you. I know what you're thinking and saying, Gino.
Yeah, and Reagan Beers didn't impress me, even though she had 10 rebounds. She was 3 for 11. She just didn't seem to put a mark on the game, let's put it that way. Even in the first half when they were winning, Rob, she didn't seem to be the reason they were winning.
Right.
I'd never seen her play before. I'd never seen Oklahoma play before, I'll be honest. That doesn't mean she got honorable mention All-American. That's the only reason I mentioned her. So, but anyways, I think Paige, that gives her a lot of confidence going to the next game, Rob, and I think UConn is very, very dangerous if Paige has that attitude in the next game or two, depending on whether they win. They got to win tonight just to get in the Final Four.
Yeah, I think USC is going to have a tough time without JuJu Watkins. Connecticut should win the game. There's 2 teams, Mark, I think are on a mission here, and I think they might meet in the finals. That's UConn and that's South Carolina.
I agree, Rob. I can see UConn and South Carolina. We'll see what happens. It will be interesting if USC upsets UConn without JuJu. I'm not making any comments about that.
Well,
Other than without her for 2 games in a row.
The only way it's going to happen, Mark, is if Kiki Ireland plays a better game. She didn't play that well. Smith was the one that helped them win this last game, but Kiki, I don't know how they had her ranked as far as early in the year as far as draft. They do that pre-draft. The
third
draft.
Third they had her, I think.
Yeah, they had her third. I'm like, I don't know about. I mean, I at this point, she's barely would make the first round.
Well, first of all, those mock drafts that they do before the season starts are useless. They're seriously, they're useless. Let them play their last year of college before you do a mock draft. It's just I don't even look at them, Rob. I just they came across them and I might have glanced at it, but they're so silly. Like preseason All-American. Preseason what? For playing no games, you get All-American?
Right.
Oh, I don't know what to say except that the competition becomes harder, and we'll see what Paige does against better defense. So we'll see what happens. She's got 3 more games to win, Rob. So again, but Oklahoma at least was a decent team, and she went off on them. So we'll see what happens. So they're playing tonight. We're going to stream that, by the way, just as a reminder. All right. So Hidalgo, Rob, disappointed me in this last game. She was forcing the ball.
Yeah.
And you saw. I'm assuming you saw the game, right?
You saw that in the ACC tournament. I think I mentioned it. They were very. I don't know if coaches follow the players, but they're very undisciplined as far as on the offense. They just would come down 1-on-4 and shoot it, or the shot. I don't know if they thought there was a 10-second shot clock. They would rush their shots, and then they would force their shots. Like and then she would drive in and fall. I mean, sometimes she's hit, but her driving in and falling down, thinking she's going to get the foul. She's got to stop doing that.
Right. Well, here, tell me if I'm wrong, Rob, but here's the thing. I understand the concept about getting Sedona Prince in foul trouble by driving towards the basket. But when you're a 5'6" player, you're not going to get that person in foul trouble very often because they're just going to swat your ball away. You got to be over 6 foot to start driving on a 6'7" person. They're going to have to actually do something besides swat the ball away to stop you from scoring when you drive to the basket. So she's not the right person to be driving towards the basket to get her in foul trouble. And she kept doing it, and she was 3 for 19. That's almost John Stark's, level.
You're driving in against someone who's taller than you, and with women's basketball, it makes it even worse because they don't jump as high as the men can. You get Tony Archibald, who's 5'9", who could take it to the hoop over guys 7 feet. But in the women's game, it's different. I mean, all she had to do, which is what she did, was just put her arm up. She doesn't have to even jump that high to block a player's shot.
What she should have been doing is dumping it off to, I can't pronounce her name, Laiatu King. She was 8 for 9. She made her first 8 shots, Rob.
Yeah.
Why wasn't she dumping it off to her as she was driving to the basket instead of trying to get a foul call against someone who's 6'7"?
Yeah.
I don't know. She disappointed me in that game. She was being too courageous with her drives, and her outside shot wasn't hitting. So what you got to do, you got to pass more. That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say.
Because if they switch, or like the lost art, which I don't see players doing, is that jump stop. You don't have to take it all the way to the hoop. Jump stop and shoot off the glass.
Rob, what percentage of women have you seen in Division I basketball or the WNBA that have that shot?
No one does it. No one does that jump stop. It's a lost
Very
art.
few.
I used to teach that jump stop with getting the ball and jump stop when you're dribbling instead of taking it all the way to the hoop.
Right. So that was my feeling about Hidalgo. She was 3/4 of the way this season. I thought I would vote for her for Player of the Year. The season ended. She was just a first-team All-American. But you know what? She's only a sophomore.
Right.
She'll come back next year, Rob. She'll learn from her mistakes. She played good defense. It's not like she played an awful game. She just didn't shoot well. And I don't think your strategy was correct. But so Texas won on Saturday too, Rob.
Yeah, and Texas. Texas. They impressed me. Out of all the teams, I believe they play very well. They've been playing pretty well. Not too many close games, but like you said, they haven't really played challenging teams, but still,
they seem to. Tennessee was 5 seed.
Yeah. So they played them. They've been playing really well. They're the team that could slip in there. People don't think about.
Yeah, they're playing tonight, so we'll see what happens. Madison Booker was only 6 for 15, she had 17 points, but she had 6 rebounds and 3 assists, so she didn't have a bad game. They needed her to be bigger, though, Rob. She was on AP's first-team All-American, and she needs to step up more, and we'll see if she does tonight. This is Monday while we're taping this.
And she was SEC Player of the Year, so she needs to play.
She needs to step up.
Step up the level. With when you're playing, like I said, when you're playing, you see that in coaching or even players. You keep going up in level. You got to raise your game up. Keep raising your game up. You can't go back. You got to keep raising it. Competition is going to be better, and so you got to raise your game up. Which, if you're playing against better competition, that should be in your mind. Like, oh, cool, I'm playing against this person or team. Right. Step it up even more.
And USC beat Kansas State Wildcats 67-61. And Kiki Ariafin laid another egg, Rob. She had a great game the game before, but they had no one that could defend her. They were small and weren't very good. She was 3 for 13, 7 points in a game where JuJu was not playing. What? She did get 8 rebounds, but still, Rob, that's
yeah. I think what helped USC was Hall. She was 4 for 8 for threes. That's what helped them. Smith had a good game also. So that's if they didn't have them, then they would have lost.
Yeah, Kenny Smith was 7 for 14, scored 19 points. Howell scored 18 points. And also, Howell was 6 for 11 overall. And Howell also had 8 rebounds, and 4 steals. So she had a great game, Rob. She really stepped up. And I think these women, both of them are freshmen, by the way, would be able to contribute more. But I don't think JuJu's style of play allows that. I don't know if you think I'm off base or not, but she's very ball dominant and doesn't pass a lot. And she's somewhat of a selfish player, and she doesn't really make her teammates better, in my opinion. And that's why I don't think she's as good as player as her fans think she is. So, these women, get a chance to shine. And look, they're only freshmen, and they're stepping up in their first NCAA tournament. It's pretty impressive. So we'll see how they do tonight. They play tonight. So let's see. So let's go to Sunday's games. There were 2 games on Sunday, Rob. South Carolina again was not impressive, Rob, even though they were able to win again. They beat a good team. Duke's a good team, Rob. They're playing well at the end of the year.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say, Mark. Impressive. They're playing a good team. You want to win by 10 or 12 points? They're not going to do that against a good team.
No, I know, but they didn't. The round before that, they didn't win by much either, Rob. But Rob, South Carolina was, after they lost to UCLA, they were blowing teams out by 30, 40 points. Pretty good teams too. And now they're struggling to beat teams by 4 points and stuff.
I don't know why you have them struggling, Mark. They're not struggling. They're playing. You can't expect them to play at the level.
I just don't think they've looked that great. I don't think they've looked that great, Rob.
Well, no, they're not. Well, every team can't. Every win is not a great win, Mark. So the bottom line is that when they ask you, when they ask you, They don't ask you how'd you play or whatever. They just ask you, did you win? You just say yes. So they won.
Well,
And
when
it's
you're trying to predict,
not an impressive win, not like they won by 10 or 12 points, but they played a good team and they played well enough to win. That's what I say.
well, when you're trying to predict who's going to win the NCAA tournament, it's a factor in terms of how well they're playing. And I just don't think they look that great. I mean, Melissa Falwell, basically won the game for him the round before, but then she only played 11 minutes. Yeah, she was 2 for 6, but you don't put her back in again when you've got people like Bree Hall who scored 3 points and Raven Johnson scored 7 points, and they played 33 and 31 minutes respectively. I don't know, Rob. I would have played her more, especially in the third quarter when they only scored 12 points.
I would have played her. I would have played her a little bit more, but I see where I was watching the game and I see where Coach Staley was thinking and what I was doing. She had really terrible turnovers. I was like, "What are you doing?" And she was kind of just not in her game. She wasn't really playing. And then though those players didn't score, they were playing much better defense than she was. So I mean, sometimes you got to go with the flow. They have enough players. That's the whole thing. She plays almost like 9 or 10 players a game, which is great for college basketball. I don't see too many teams doing that.
I refuse to rank her until she starts, Rob. When you're playing 19, 20 minutes a game and you're not starting, I refuse. I'm not going to rank her until I see her start.
Well, I mean, like I said, I was that 6-man player, and I probably should have been starting, but I didn't bother me because you know why? Because I played most of the game, so I didn't really care. Starting doesn't make that big deal. I mean, starting does not mean that you're the best player.
I get that. I just think she would feel more freedom in terms of playing. I don't know what to say. It's hard to judge a player who I think has a potential to be a star player when she's playing 19, 20 minutes a game. So we'll find out. We'll find out next year whether she enters the transfer portal or whether she'll start next year. But a lot of people think she's being held down by Dawn Staley, and I tend to agree with them.
No, I don't. They're not watching the game. Again, they're not watching them. I mean, she has free whim. She goes in the game. She does her thing. And like I said, sometimes she's out of sorts. Like she was this game. She was kind of out of sorts. And you don't play her. So, I mean, you can't just like, okay, she's
one of the few players in college basketball that can create her own shot, though.
Yeah.
So, and then other game on Sunday was UCLA beating LSU, which was a good game. It was actually closer than the final score. It was 72-65. And I don't know what to say about Lauren Betts. One time I see her and she looks great. Other times she misses easy layups, Rob, and easy putbacks and stuff like that. She was 7 for 14, but all her shots were right underneath the basket.
UCLA does not. I'm not sold on UCLA. They probably could win it all if Betts, plays well. But they're the team they're hard for me to root for because of the way they played, and I saw them play against USC, the way they played their defense and their offense. Betts if she gets in foul trouble, that seems to mess up their game. Right.
Well, they played just fine without her in the second quarter. Yeah. They outscored them 22-12 without her.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not, she did have 7 rebounds and 6 blocks. I don't want to take away, but she had 5 turnovers. Like the ball would be, give her in the post, and she sometimes would lose the ball, be knocked out of her hands. For the 3-point shooting by Gardner, she comes off the bench, and also Gabriel Jaquez. She was 4 for 5, and Gardner was 5 for 8. If it wasn't for those 3-point shots, Rob, by those 2 players, they would have lost that game.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Rice, she forces a drive to them sometimes too much. It's just that they don't. If I was a coach, they scare me, but they wouldn't scare me. If I was wanting to face them, all the teams, or if I was a coach, I'd like to face UCLA in the finals. If I was a coach. Yeah,
the problem is Kiki Rice can't create her own shot, and she's a good point guard in terms of a passer. She's pretty good there. She's usually under control. She had 8 assists, but she's really not a big time scorer. And I think UCLA, I'm not sure they have enough depth, Rob, to win this. But who knows? We'll see. I'm not counting them out yet. They haven't lost yet.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's a summary. Rob, you want to make any predictions for tonight's games?
UConn, I think, is going to beat USC in double figures easily.
Okay. And Texas TCU. I agree with that. What Texas team?
This is really a test for Texas. The battle of Texas, see who's the better team. But I'll still go with Texas.
I'm going to go with Texas in a close game. They're favored by 7.5, which is actually a little bit more than I thought because TCU is a good team and they're playing well.
Right.
So I'm surprised by the 7.5. But 14.5 for UConn, USC, that's not a surprise. But it will be interesting to see how they play against a really good team without JuJu. Because it's easy for them to all step up against mediocre teams or pretty good teams. But to step up against a really good team that's playing well, that's another story.
To quote a former alumni from Nazareth, who was a fantastic NBA coach, Jeff Van Gundy, when they say, when the other players have to step up, like, yeah, but you got to have that other player that is the same level of that person that you're missing step up. So
it's true, but
yeah.
But Rob, at the same time, as I pointed out, those women stepped up because they were free to do their thing because JuJu wasn't ball dominant in the games. So I think it's different in a situation when you got a player who's ball dominant that's not there anymore.
Well, Kiki better step up.
Well, yeah, if she doesn't have a great game, they don't have a chance. Yeah. Rob, really, all of the players that are their best players have to have good games, or they have no chance. This is UConn, and the UConn's playing well, and Paige is being assertive, and that makes UConn very deadly. Yeah. But it would look really bad for Paige I think it would look bad for JuJu also if USC beats UConn. It really will look really bad for both players. I'm serious. I don't know how you can't be critical of that. Because if you can't beat USC without JuJu, now Paige plays out of this world, and the other 11 players play like crap. That's not on her, but that's not usually what's going to happen. So we'll see what happens. I think Paige has got a lot of confidence going. I think you're going to see a different Paige tonight. So I'm glad. I'm happy for Paige. She seems like a nice person. I felt bad for her because of her injuries. I think she's going to be an excellent NBA player, despite what some people think. Right. And, she hasn't gotten injured really since the ACL. She had a little twist earlier in the year. That's about it. So I'm not sure she's as fragile as people think. Yeah. Just because she's got a slender build doesn't mean she's going to get injured every year that she plays. We'll see. I could be wrong. We'll go live tonight at 7. And we also have Kate and Clark's crossover from 6 to 7. Hey, if you like this video, hit the like button and feel free to share it with your family, friends, and acquaintances. And join us for Kate and Clark's crossover from 6 to 7 tonight and 5:30, 6:30 on Thursday. It's Eastern time except for major holidays, and it's a live show. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Make Rob happy. Hit that notification bell when you do so you get notified of our next video. And you can donate with super chats and super thanks down below. And there's a link to PayPal. We'll see you in the next video.
Peace out.